Make some comments as we go along, and we're going to see where that is, and I'm just going to go ahead and play it, and we're just going to watch this together, and I'm going to get my popcorn in a little bit, and then we're just going to start playing. All right, here we go. All right, everyone can see up here, right? All right, so what we've been learning about is we have a lot of the math equations and everything, but today we're going to look at a lot of triangles today. You guys have been working with triangles a lot last time. We were here, we had those protractors, we made those angles. So we're going to look at some photos first, and then you're going to help me out. You're going to help me out and tell me if you see any triangles in this picture, right? So let's go right here. You guys see any triangles over there?
Yes.
Where might the triangles be? Oh, the pyramids right here? It's like that?
Yep.
So then what about here? The house?
Yeah, right there.
Tougher ones now. What about this one?
Oh, it's in the middle. The wires. All of the wires. Triangle right there.
Right triangle, very good. So what's a right triangle? 90 degrees, very good. Okay. So there you go.
All right, so I think we get the point now.
Very good. And the tires.
Yeah.
All right, you're all over it. So you see that there's triangles all over the place. You have triangles in buildings and even in bikes. So there's all these different things. So what we're going to do now is a quick exercise. So everyone has their notes ready. We're going to do a little exercise where you guys are going to think about the question and then write it down. And then we're going to share it with our partners. We're going to pair up in twos. And then I might call on you to share what you wrote down, all right? So I want you to think about, why are there so many triangles in all these pictures? Why do you think triangles are important? So go ahead and write down why you think triangles are important. It doesn't have to be long. It could just be like one or two ideas. All right, when you wrote something down, I want you to turn to the person sitting next to you and then tell them why you think triangles are important. Go ahead and share those ideas with each other. Does anyone want to share what they wrote down? You do, okay. They're fancy and they're aerodynamic. Oh, that's good. Those are big words. That's great. Do you know what it means by aerodynamic? Maybe? Pointy and fast. That's right. That's aerodynamic. So triangles are really good for that because they're pointy on one end. So a lot of times, if I had pictures of like a space shuttle or of an airplane, the very front of it looks like a little triangle. So that's very good. Yes, that's right. It's very strong. It's very stable. So triangles are very good. So now I'm going to have you write another thing down. So why do you think what information do you think we could get from triangles, or how do you think we could use triangles? You kind of mentioned some things already before. You talked about aerodynamics and support for buildings. Can you name other things that would be useful to know what a triangle does?
Okay, so I fumbled through that one. That's 3 or 4 versions of the same question. So note to self, write more specific, direct questions. All right, here we go.
All right, so once you wrote something down, why don't you go ahead and share it with your partners again, whoever you're sitting next to. What do you think? How can you use triangles? You can find them everywhere?
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
And now we can get
Do you know what you use them for?
see that's what makes it like because it's food. I'm from red.
Oh, the food pyramid. No, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. All right, so anyone want to share a couple more things of why it's important? Yes.
It can help us with homework and measurements.
It could help you with measurements and homework.
Oh, you cook mine.
So, what else?
All right, fast forward through here. They ask a couple more questions, and we get to the end.
Triangles are actually like a basic shape that you could find in a lot of different things. So if you put 2 triangles together, you could get what?
Square.
A diamond, or you could get a square. So you get all these different shapes. So not only can you find it like in a bicycle or in parts of the circle, which is parts of the wheel of the bike, but you could find it in squares and rectangles and all sorts of polygons. Okay, so I'm going to tell you guys a little story. All right, and I'll draw on here if you can. So we're learning about triangles, and for a long time, like the Egyptians, they were concerned about triangles because they had those pyramids. And then also there was this Greek guy, and you guys know about the Greeks, right? So there's these guys, and they kind of go around in togas, and they were thinking about triangles too. And well, since he's Greek, he had like this big chain, and it had a big G on it. So we'll just call him G, all right? So G was out there, and one day he was looking at these triangles, and he's like, oh, look at that crazy triangle right here. He's just wondering about the triangle and seeing, that triangle, it's a kind of funky little shape. It has 3 sides. I wonder what you can do with it. It's kind of weird. And then his friend, we'll call him, let's call him Phil. So Phil came by and said, hey, G, what are you doing? He's like, I'm thinking about triangles. So he says, what are you thinking about triangles for? And he says, I don't know, it looks kind of crazy. And I was thinking that, what if we put squares around the triangle? And Phil was saying, like, G, you're crazy. What are you talking about? Well, look, you could put a square here. and Phil's like, yeah, what are you going to do about that? And G says, I don't know, but it looks kind of funky. But you know what? I see that really big square right there. And there's 2 small squares. And Phil says, you know what? I bet you that the big square is bigger than the other 2 combined. And then G says, no, what are you talking about, Phil? There's 2 squares. It's going to have more area because there's 2 of them. There's 2 spots. So G says that these 2 are going to be bigger than this one. And then Phil says that this big one is bigger than these 2. And so then they started talking about that. And then I was wondering if you guys can help me out. Who do you think is right? You have that big square or the 2 little squares? So G was saying these, and Phil was saying this.
Phil.
So what do you think's right? So if you think that Phil's right, raise your hand.
Right.
One person thinks Phil's right. Okay. If you think G's right, raise your hand. If you don't know, raise your hand. Okay, there's a mix, but most of you guys think that Phil's right. Why is Phil right? Because it's a bigger square?
Most of us do. I thought it was an F.
So if you think G's right, because there's 2 squares. Well, I don't know. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to find that out. All right, so we're going to do a little activity. So what I have here is I have some triangles, and we're going to go ahead and measure these off. And so let me show you how we're going to do that first, and then we'll get going. So I have one of these triangles, and we're going to hand out some papers, all right? And we have some scissors and some glue for you guys. You're going to go ahead and cut out little squares that fit. So you have to figure out which side fits. You might have to take 2 things together. But I'll go ahead and have Miss Ing help me pass those out, the triangles. And then you guys will go ahead and put these together in your groups, all right? So at the end, what I want to see is a square around each of the triangles. So I'm going to go and here's one that we prepared earlier. So you guys are going to get a picture, and it's going to look something like this, all right? When you're done. So I want you guys to do that.
So on your tables, if you would clear your tables except for your notebook and your pencil.
Now, so it's really great that Miss Ing stepped in there and helped me out with some of the classroom management stuff here, but that's something that I really need to hone in on, and I don't have enough experience doing that.
Okay, so the first thing everyone needs to do is make sure that your names are on the paper, and then we're going to glue the triangles to the middle of the page, all right? Okay, so everyone's writing their name down, and then you're going to glue the triangle to the middle of the page.
Oh, I just had to say that twice. Note to self, write directions on board.
And before I hand out the
Uh-oh.
squares to you guys,
Looks like I lost control.
and some squares.
Are they even
I want you
listening?
guys, since most of your groups have 4 people, one person's going to do 1 square for each one. And then if you have a 4th person, an extra person, that person's going to be the scribe. They're going to write down your answer. Because I want you to make the squares, and then I want you to say who's right. So you're going to be writing down who do you think is right.
Okay.
Because we're going to count all the squares.
Poor guy.
Which one is bigger, all right?
Doesn't seem like they're paying much attention. Yep, I think you're giving up
Do you
right
guys have
about
any
now.
questions? I'll write the instructions on the board, or I'll start handing everything out.
Oh, look at his face. You can see that he knows they are not paying attention. So next time I need to write the instructions ahead of time and give it before handing out the equipment. And then also probably making sure that I just don't rely on audio. I need to have something written down. It's better for the ELL students and for the visual learners. Easier for them to follow along with. Maybe something written down would help. So anyway, they're getting their projects going. You can see a lot of them working on it. And this took up a good amount of time during the day, and my time actually got a little bit away from me during this section, but for the most part, they got most of their projects done, and we're going to answer some questions now.
Alright guys, how's it going? You guys, which sides are you working on? You're working on that side? You're working on that side? How big are your sides? Did you count? How did you measure? Go ahead and measure it again. Okay. So how long is it? So you could write it down, but it's easier. You could write the number like right here. Oh, that looks good, guys. Alright, sorry, that doesn't look like a square. Is that a square? Oh, this one? You still working on that?
Oh, we have to cut it into a square?
So you want squares on each of the sides, right? So...
It has to be bigger.
Yeah. Well, what's a square? All the sides are equal for a square. So are all the sides the same on that one? No. So what do you need to do to make it the same? Three more. But then you have to make sure it goes all the way to the end too.
What?
I need more squares. Because I know that you guys can handle it.
So the copes continue to work and they finish up, and with a little bit of movie magic, we'll get everyone to put their things on the board, and then we'll go from there.
Alright, so everyone put theirs up, and so what was the answer? What did you guys get? So we were looking at the triangles and looking at the squares, and G was saying that the two smaller squares would be bigger, and then Phil was saying that the big square is going to be bigger. So what did you guys find?
They're the same. They're the same.
They're the same? You mean they're both the same? But there's like two squares, and one's bigger.
But they're the same length. It doesn't matter about that.
Did you guys get the same? Who got the same?
They got different.
What did you guys get? Did you guys get the same? Or you got different? Okay, which one's yours?
The biggest one.
So with the blue one and then the purple one. So what did you get for the purple one?
The two smaller ones.
The two smaller ones were bigger?
Yeah.
So how big was this? It looks like you said it was 12 by 12, right? So that is, how big is that?
144.
144, and then this. You write it down? What do you get?
They were the same.
169? Okay, so they are the same. I was just double checking. That's all right. It's just a little error because you had the big triangles, so you had a lot of numbers to deal with. But that's okay. So all of them were the same except for this group. This group had, things were different. What did you get for your numbers here? You had 25 and 25, and then this one was 36. Can anyone tell me why this one is different from all the rest?
Because that one's like because all the sides. Because the other ones are right triangles.
The other ones are right triangles? What were you saying? That
Yeah, but and that one's just like.
what kind of triangle do you call that? This one where you have the two the same sides?
Isosceles.
Isosceles triangle. That's very good. That's exactly what you were saying. It's an isosceles triangle. All right. So We're looking at this, and it looks like all the sides are the same if it's a, what type of triangle?
Right triangle.
If it's a right triangle. So if it's an isosceles triangle, it didn't work. Well, since this is a math class, let's look at the equation here. When you're looking at the triangle, like this, and then you have the squares, right? What happens if I label the squares? So let's say that this one is, I'll label this side A, and this side B,
C.
and this one C. Okay?
Oh, you do A.
So what did we find out? That the two small ones is equal to the large one? How do I put that into an equation?
A to the second power plus B to the second power
plus C to the
Well,
A
why are
plus
you
C
doing it
to
in the
the
second power?
A plus B equals C.
No,
But
it's
it's like times width.
I think you're on the right track. Length times width. So for the A one, it's going to be this side's A and then this side's A, right? So we're going to make that like an A
to the second power.
to the second power.
Plus B to the second power equals C to the second power.
So is everyone following? Then the next one, we're going to add it to the second square. So this one is going to be
B to the second power.
B
Equals.
to the second power
Yeah.
Equals C to the second power.
equals C to the second power. So it's also like saying this, right? A times A, B times B, C times C. So I have A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Where did you guys hear that before?
Pythagorean.
Pythagorean Theorem! So you know what we just did? We just proved that the Pythagorean Theorem works. Isn't that neat? So the sides there, the squares, add up just like the Pythagorean Theorem. It's A squared plus B squared equals C squared. How much time do I have?
2 minutes.
Okay, so what we're going to do is when you guys are working on your homework later, hopefully this will help you out solving those problems. But I have one last thing for you to do is I'm going to hand you this slip of paper. It has 3 questions on it. And you guys need to fill these just out before you leave. So it's going to be something that you learned in class today. Tell me something about the Pythagorean Theorem. And then what did you like best about today's lesson? Alright? Alright, so this problem out there, while you're filling that out, if you finish, you can follow along. So I have this building, and this building is on fire with blue fire.
Oh no!
Yes!
And there's a puppy on the 4th floor.
No!
I know, isn't that horrible?
My
And then
favorite pet.
the puppy is 40 feet high, off the ground. And then, but I call the fire truck, so it's okay. The fire truck is here. Well, it's 30 feet away.
Yep, that was the bell, and I probably need to make a note to myself not to start a problem right before the bell rings. And I was just trying to squeeze it in there, and lucky for me, Missing gave me the high side to continue, and it was our lunch period that I was cutting into, but again, not a good idea.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared, and that'll be.
Isn't this what we just did in class today?
Yeah, the Pythagorean Theorem.
So when you guys get your homework assignments, which are on the wall somewhere. Alright, so welcome back. Thank you for watching that video with me, and I'm glad you're able to review that. It's really helpful for me to see my